Hi, I'm Mark from Trinic. Today we're going to walk you through the attributes of Trinic's H-12 water-based sealer, how it works, how to apply it, start to finish. We call it H-12 because it's H2O water-based and it's the 12th formulation that we're finally able to release. It comes in both gloss and matte versions. And here's the attributes we're after. It's real simple. Easy to apply and understandable. Doesn't take special equipment or anything. It takes some foam rollers and some common sense to put it down. Works. It'll give you 24 hours of stain and acid protection. Now, beyond that, the material you put on pretty much dries. So if anyone's destroying it, it is repairable. If somebody takes a box knife to the counter, it's water-based, has very little to no owner, and it's field repairable, so if someone destroys your tops. This is no catastrophic failure. That means you're not going to get a phone call about a delamination happening in sheets. In fact, the opposite's true. You can't scrape it off with a razor blade. It is water-based. The way we're going to apply it, we'll go through this in detail, is a first coat, second coat, third coat, fourth if needed. This will depend on the density of your concrete. The denser your concrete, the less coat you're going to need. The reason for that is this would be a microscopic view of your concrete surface. These are not bug holes, they are simply channels that develop in your concrete. This is why when you wet the surface of your concrete, it wets out laterally and underneath. If we have no sealer on, the acid in foods will go in and actually remove some of the particles. This would be felt as an acid etch. So what we did is we designed a sealer and a method of application. First coat 7-to-1. The reason for this 7-to-1 is we need the sealer to go in, penetrate all of the channels and seal them. If we just attempted to go topical, some of the sealer would fall into the channel and there would still be a route for acids to get in. Diluted 7-to-1, the water carries the particles in here and starts sealing from the inside. This is the penetrating portion. Now the reason it doesn't have great protection at 7-to-1 is because it never forms a continuous screen on top. That's what we're after. But what it will do is it'll penetrate in and seal it. Second coat 4-to-1. Now that you've got most of the channels closed, not bug holes, but channels, even though it will go in and seal a bug hole, now you're starting to develop a continuous screen on top of your concrete. Third coat 3-to-1, 2-to-1. A lot of people will be able to use 3 coats and done, maybe 2-to-1 for the final coat. Again, this will depend on the density of your concrete. The denser the concrete, the less coat you need. As you're building it, eventually you get to the fourth if needed. You're going to have a continuous screen of protection. The reason there's no chance of delamination is these have formed bonds with the concrete. Covalent bonds, so this screen on top cannot come off. You'll see later, we'll try to scrape this off with a razor blade. That's about it. We'll go on and we'll demonstrate the how to batch it, how to mix it, and how to seal a piece. Here's a sample we've been what I call abuse testing. This is Tabasco mustard lemon vinegar. Here it's Tabasco ketchup vinegar, mustard lemon. At 3 days, the lemon left a slight mark, not bad. But at 7 days, nothing got through it. The important thing is that it's extremely scratch resistant. To hurt the sealer, you have to hurt your concrete. The next point is it won't delaminate. At most, you get off kind of a whitish powder. Somebody got crazy, and it is fixable. That's even more important. We'll show you how to apply it to a large piece next. Now we're ready to mix the sealer. The sealer comes in two parts, part A, part B. You take 2 parts A to 1 part B. And then we're going to dilute it with water as we go through the coats. Now part A and B is very sensitive to moisture, so make sure you keep your part B closed tightly in between uses, and do not contaminate part B with any part A, vice versa. Do not reuse the sealer. Even though it doesn't coagulate, it won't get hard. After about an hour, the sealer should not be used. So what I do is I mix what I need for each individual coat. That said, the sealer goes a very long way on the first coat because it's 7:1. We'll show you how I'll mix it accurately and mix very small volumes next. Here's the concrete piece we're going to demonstrate sealing. This piece we know from testing is about 8,000 to 9,000 psi. It's been honed to a 200 grit. You can seal off the form finish, 200 grit. You could seal light acid wash or anything in between with the sealer. We've never had an issue with adhesion. We honed it, 200 grit, wiped it down with acetone, it's ready to go. You can use a small foam roller like this one, or these are available from the Home Depot if you've got a lot to cover. It's actually a foam roller, it's very thin. Since this is water-based, it doesn't eat foam up, so you don't necessarily need the high-density one. Here's our product, A and B, mixing cup with a stirrer. To do small volumes like this and not waste product, you can use syringes. Do not cross-contaminate your syringes, no matter how good you think you're washing them. If you get A into B, it's going to form almost a gel and it'll ruin your whole pot. For this, I need 2A. So I'm just going to go with 10 milliliters of A. 1B, 5 milliliters of part B. Now that adds up to 15. Now I'm going to mix this for a minute, even though it's a very small amount. Mix it for a full minute and allow it to induct. Now I've mixed my very small amount for about a minute. I'm using clean potable water. You don't need that. You don't need any special type of water, deionized or whatever. Now to this I'm going to add 105 or 7:1 of water. So I'm going to fill this up to a little over 100 milliliters. As I said, this stuff goes a long way. Now once I mix this, I'm not going to save it. You do not want to save it. Mix just enough for each coat. It goes a long way. You're going to waste a little, but it doesn't, this dilution, it's only got 15 milliliters of product in it. Mix this for a minute and we are ready to start sealing. I've mixed it for another minute, but I've got gloves on. You're going to find out later why you need them. This coat, as we explained earlier, is your flat coat. You're just going to keep rolling it until the concrete doesn't want to take any more in. You don't have to worry about puddles or anything, just roll and roll and roll. For about, I would say 5 to 10 minutes. As one area dries out, give it some more. This is carrying the sealer deep into the concrete. There's pretty much, I would say just about nothing you could do wrong. I'm going to dump the rest of this rather than save it. There's not a whole lot you could do wrong besides let it totally dry before we get to the next step. But after 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, your concrete has all at once
you'll begin the process of removing the excess. If you've got edges, just roll your edges. If it drips off, don't worry about it. This is setting your concrete up for subsequent coats and sealing the internal capillaries. It'll actually seal the insides of bug holes. There's some bug holes along this edge if you keep rolling it. It'll go in and then go sideways and then seal the bug holes so they won't give you a problem later. This is, I would call this sealer a medium color enhancing. And it's available in both a gloss and a matte. This happens to be the matte version we're demonstrating today. We're going to let this go and keep rolling for about 5 minutes. We'll be back to take off the excess. It's been a little less than 5 minutes, but I think our concrete has all at once. If you see areas that are dry, you don't have enough, roll some material in. Now you want to start removing excess. I'm using some pressure on the roller, moving it all towards an edge. Don't worry about lines or foam, none of that stuff matters. And you're just going to roll it right on off the edge. And then as the concrete begins to absorb what's left, this is why you wore gloves. Take your roller, squeegee out the excess on the roller. Roll your piece. Obviously, if you left a line like this, it would show. So you're just removing excess material and laying it out. It's going to get to the point where it doesn't have any foam lines or anything. And it'll lay out perfectly. That's when you know you're done. You won't see any bubbles, any foam. This first coat will lay out like that side did. It doesn't happen very suddenly, so you do have time. See, now as I roll, there's absolutely no foam marks, no lines, no nothing. This state that it's in now will last probably 4 or 5 minutes in my shop. My shop's 60 degrees, probably a relative humidity of 50%. It might last less in a dry environment, longer, moist one. But now I get to the point where there's no pressure, it doesn't matter if you drip a little, there's almost no pressure on the roller, and it's laid out perfectly. I can't do anything to hurt it at this point. I would have to roll it for a full half hour, maybe an hour to hurt it. That's how easy this first coat is. The next coats too are going to be just about the same. Catch the light right, look for that. I'm not seeing anything wrong with this at all. You can go fast, slow, it doesn't matter. You've got a perfect application every time. Now let's wait. Time between coats will vary with your relative humidity. As soon as this is dry enough where you're not smearing it and it's dry to the touch, you can put another coat on. We'll let this sit maybe an hour. Hour it should be dry to the touch, I would say. And we'll go with coat 2. Now we're on to coat 2. Coat 1 was our 7-to-1, 7 water, 1 sealer. Coat 2, we're mixing 2 parts A, 1 part B, 4-to-1 sealer to water. It's been only about 20 minutes. Typically the first coat, because it's 7-to-1, it's pretty dry. It'll dry very quickly. As soon as you can't rub it and have any come off, you're fine for a next coat. So this is our 4-to-1 coat. We'll do the exact same procedure. Wet the piece out thoroughly. As the coats get less diluted, they will take longer to dry. And you should allow them longer time to dry as well. Because now you're really starting to close off all the capillaries and build protection. Once again, I'm not in any hurry. I'm going to wet the piece out thoroughly, take my time, roll it, wait about 5, clean up all my roller marks, and I'll be done. So you can see, you're going to use very little sealer on the entire project. This one I think I overmixed. I mixed 20A, 10 milliliter B, and then to that I added 4 parts water, so 4 times 30, added 120 water. And I could have used less. This would probably cover, oh, I don't know, 100 milliliters I would say on coat 2 would cover at least 20 square feet. So you really don't need a whole lot of sealer for the project. It's another benefit. It's very inexpensive sealer to use to go along with working really well. Once again, I'll let this go for about 5 minutes. Then I'll clean her up. I might as well put the rest on. I'm not going to use it for anything else. Really allow it to penetrate in there well. You can see it darken the sealer underneath. Eventually, it will stay color enhanced. Okay, I'm going to give that 5 minutes, a little less than 5, and I'll clean it up. It's been a couple minutes, not quite 5 minutes. I think it has all at once. So once again, I'm going to, little pressure, take off excess. Wring out my roller. Roll out my lines. Watch as it gets to the point where it starts to lay out. It evaporates. It gets to a couple different points. This point where it's got the foam going on means there's probably still a little bit too much material, or it needs to sit just a little bit. Once you get past that foam state, it starts to lay out beautifully. It's getting there, it's not quite there yet. The beauty of this sealer is it's very hard to do anything wrong. This end's getting there, and you can see it. A little bit drier roller. You can, incidentally, you could roll your roller on a piece of cardboard if you wanted to. Take some more material off, or just squeegee it out. Now it's starting to lay out. And you just keep on going with your roller. Let it sit for a minute. Now, no pressure on the roller now. This is coat 2. Probably do 2 more coats on this. We really want to get good protection. This coat's going to take longer than the first to dry. Each subsequent coat will take longer to dry, because now, instead of going into the concrete and out, now it's only starting to come out. The next coat more so. Now that I've got it laying out, I can really work it. Bubbles are gone. Finish looks about perfect. You'll see it'll start to keep its color enhancement as you start to get a little bit more on the surface. Now there's no pressure at all on the roller, just rolling, making sure all of my bubbles are popped. catch the light right, I think it'll lay out just fine. You'd have to get crazy to over-roll it, but I suppose you could over-roll it if you rolled it the whole way dry. Okay, let that sit for probably an hour, hour and a half. We'll be ready for another coat. Yesterday we put on 2 coats. We put on our first coat, second coat, 4-to-1. We let it sit overnight just because we ran out of time. Now if you let it sit overnight, that's fine. You got about 24 hours to do a recoat. Even after 24 hours, it'll stick very good with no sanding, but we recommend a light sanding with, say, a 400 grit. Recoat, meaning if you had to recoat in the field if somebody damaged their top, go over it with 250, 220, and then a light sand with that, and then a recoat. 1 recoat should be sufficient. Today, we're going to put a 3rd coat on it, 3-to-1. Now, 3-to-1, this right here with our concrete would be perfectly adequate for a vanity top. If you want to have better protection for a kitchen, you can either go 3rd coat 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 and then 4th coat 2-to-1. This is basically going to be immune to everything in the kitchen for 24 hours, a 4th coat 2-to-1. The vanity top, that's fine. 3-to-1 here that we're going to demonstrate. If you've got any dust bunnies, you can use a piece of 600 grit. Feel it. If you've got any dust bunnies, anything sticking in it, before you recoat, just go over it real light. Cut off the dust bunnies with 600 grit. Today we're going to demonstrate a 12-inch foam roller. I managed to find these at the Home Depot. Once again, put it on, roll it out, don't worry about the bubbles. This is 3-to-1, so it's going to take a little longer to dry. It's not going to sink into the concrete much because we've already got 2 coats. But if this were a vanity, I'd be done after this coat. Our concrete is made with Trinic's admixtures, and I know it's about 8,000. This piece is less than 7 days old. Eventually it'll hit about 12,000. We haven't hit concrete you can't seal with this yet. We'll be testing some that's in the 20,000 psi range in the near future. Same with this 3-to-1 coat. Keep rolling it. Push excess off the edge. So it starts to lay out for you. Wring the roller out if needed. Roll it till dry, or almost dry, till you stop seeing any foam occurring. This one's not bad, this wider roller. I actually like the smaller high density foam rollers a little bit better. Probably because they have tapered edges where this one doesn't. But this one seems to be doing fine. Bring it out a little again. Now I'm not using any pressure on the roller, just rolling the top out all the foam, all the bubbles. Overall, I like the white foam rollers better, but I figured I'd give this one a try. After using it here, I probably would not recommend it. That's it. We'll let this coat dry, and then we're probably going to only coat half of this, because this will be for test for the next one. We've gone down through our first coat, second coat, third coat, which I said we did a 3-to-1, it'd be fine for a vanity top. Now, if you need extra protection, more protection, you could do a final 4-to-1 at 2-to-1. A final fourth coat at 2-to-1. What we're going to do is we're going to do half our piece at 2-to-1, leave the other one sealed as here, just to show you the difference. It's still not what I would call thick, but it's obviously a little bit thicker. So it'll lay out and it'll go on differently. Plus now it's all got to evaporate and cure. None of it is going to go into the concrete anymore. It'll still have fantastic scratch resistance, no doubt. But it'll be a little bit better acid protection. Stains are no problem, acids are the problem. This is a very acid resistant sealer to vinegar, lemon juice. Those are the killers with sealers. Same tactic. Keep rolling until it starts to look uniform. This is our final coat. Now what you can do once you're done, you can go over it by hand with a piece of maybe 400 to 600 grit lightly. That'll remove any dust bunnies. 7 days to full cure. It actually gets harder for a full 14 days. But after 7, you can do your testing. 3 days, I would feel comfortable delivering it. Just warn your customer not to leave things sitting on it. If you get them through that first week, you'll be fine. There it goes. It's ready to, it's not laying out for me. Once the foaming stops, the bubbles stop, you'll see as you roll, the roller lines will pretty much disappear within 5 or 10 seconds. That's when you know you're done. Bubbles are gone. The roller lines dissipate as you roll. I suppose you could over-roll it, it'd be hard to do. But now I know I'm done. My roller lines are disappearing. My foam marks are gone. Get off of it. That's it. Now that the Versacolor is dry, we've gone over it with rags, we've scrubbed it. If you've done it right, it reacts with the lithium silicate, locks the color in. You can scrub it with a dry cloth and nothing comes off. Now the problem is going to be, can we go over it with a wet sealer, in this case Trinic H-12, and lock the color in? The answer is yes, but you might need to use a little bit of a special technique. What I like to do, first coat of sealer, 7-to-1. I'm not worried about letting it dwell too long. I'm more worried about locking the color in. Look at your roller. Is your roller picking it up? Is it leaving lines? Etc., etc. All we want to do is get this color locked in on this first coat without leaving lines. So watch your roller. 7-to-1 dilution. You should be fine. Do not over apply it. This is one case where you don't want to flood the surface terrifically. I'd say I have enough sealer on there, even though I didn't apply a whole lot. I've got enough sealer to lock in the color. So rather than do our usual flood coat, roll it to death, I'm going to leave that as is, ring my roller, and roll it just enough to get the foam bubbles off. Difference between this and our last application, we flooded the surface. Now the next one, we could do a little bit more flood because once this coat dries, it's going to lock our color in. But I didn't apply near as much sealer. My roller turned a little bit, but not a whole lot. Now I can start to roll a little bit without fear. I've got a beautiful looking color locked in. And once again, if you were to flood it too badly, you won't take all the color off, but you could potentially leave lines. Now I've got this coat 1, which is 7-to-1, with no lines, laying out beautifully. More importantly, I've got my color locked in. From here on out, you can proceed as normal. What we're going to do here, I'm going to do this, I'll do this part as normal, and this part we're not going to seal. This is where we've got a little bit of color on here. You can see it's so powerful, we tried to take it off with acetone, it wouldn't come off. And I'm going to use the normal technique of flooding the surface and rolling it on this part, just to compare how it looks versus the other part. Now that other part is drying quickly because we have a very thin coat on. This part we're going to keep wetter a little longer. Let her soak for a little bit and roll it out. Now in the meantime, our first one is almost dry. What I'm going to do, before I contaminate my roller, is roll this piece till it's ready. actually going to put another thin coat right on that. That piece is done. This piece, I'm going to go with another flood coat. Just from that first coat, my roller is now picking up less color. Just have these couple of lines. Once you get Versacolor on, it's very difficult to get it off. Now we've got our color locked in. Now I'm getting more of a flood coat. That's it, you're up to speed. From here on out, coat is normal.